الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. نادي الاقتصاد الإسلامي بجامعة الكويت is pleased to host an important lecture today entitled Islamic Banking Principles and Practices. First of all, I would like to thank Honorable Dr. Ala Adil Jassim, who is the director of the Islamic Economics Association, and Dr. Abdul Latif, Sister Asma, and other management of the Nadi al-Iqtisad al-Islami, Bijamiat al-Kuwait. And this is very much important association of Islamic economics, which is hosting and conducting regularly many lectures, workshops, trainings, and talks. So we are pleased to be part of this association. And Alhamdulillah, today we have very much important lecture, which is very much important for Islamic finance and economics and banking. And today we have a very well-renowned and prominent young researcher and lecturer, Dr. Habibur Rahman. So before we start our lecture today, let me explain today's session to all of you. The lecture will be conducted by our guest speaker for 1 hour session. After 1 hour, we'll be opening the session for question and answer. And also, if you would like to have some clarifications on our explanations, you will be given opportunity and time to ask and to raise your question after the lecture. That means total 1.5 hour today's lecture. The lecture will be given at first for 1 hour, then the session for question and answer will be open for all the participants and attendees, inshallah. Let me introduce Dr. Habibur Rahman, today's guest speaker, who is currently serving as an assistant professor, senior lecturer at the University of Sultan Zainul Abidin, Malaysia. Prior to that, he served as the assistant professor at the International University of Agadir, Morocco. And Dr. Habib obtained his bachelor degree in Islamic law from the Al-Azhar University, Egypt, Jamiat Al-Azhar. Then he has been conferred the PhD degree at the International University of Malaysia. Yes, of course, Dr. Habib is being involved in many international forums, sessions, lectures, and workshops, especially in the field of Islamic banking and finance. So without further ado, let me invite our today's guest speaker, Dr. Habibur Rahman, to deliver his speech. Please welcome. فليتفضل مشكور.
جزاكم الله خيرا الأستاذ دكتور محمد محي الدين. بارك الله فيكم. Okay, please allow me to share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see the slides, right?
Yes, it's clear, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على النبي الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. Welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank this Islamic Economic Association, Nadia Al-Iqtisad Al-Islami, to organize this event, to host this event, and to invite me here to share some thoughts on Islamic banking and finance. So thanks also goes to Mr. Moderator, Dr. Muhammad Mahiuddin, for his nice introduction and for moderating this session. And thanks also for all the audience participants who can see us, who can listening us on Zoom and on YouTube and on other social media. So ahlan bikum jami'an. Welcome to all of you. And first, I would like to welcome to you again with the Islamic greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So inshallah, coming 1 hour, I would like to share some thought on Islamic banking and finance with the title Islamic Banking Principles and Practices, right? So as we know, Islamic banking has been now no more theory and no more philosophy, right? It has become now a reality. Most of the countries of the world now offering Islamic banking and finance products, even not only Islamic banking, Islamic capital market and takaful. So our talk today on Islamic banking and finance, but before going to the Islamic banking principles and practices, I would like to introduce you this industry. What is the size of this industry and how much bigger this industry? When I say this industry, I mean Islamic finance, not only banking. We know Islamic finance means Islamic banking, Islamic capital market, and takaful. These are the three main sectors or three main area in Islamic finance, right? So let me share with you some figure or some data so that we can understand how bigger the industry now, right? So that we can see that and we can say that it is not, even though in some countries there are challenges, there are misconceptions, still there are some lackings of awareness, right? But it becomes a reality, okay? So I will share with you here some data from Islamic Finance Industry Outlook. This is the report published by Islamic Financial Services Board. This is called IFSB. IFSB is based on Malaysia, right? And every year they issue the standard and stability report, right? It is very much helpful for us as a learner, as an educator, as a researcher, right, to be familiar with the institutions that provides the periodical report, the data, the numbers, the figures, right? And also I will share some data from Islamic Finance Development Indicator 2019. So it's recent data. I hope it will help all the researchers and all the educators. Okay, in these slides, you can see that the size of this industry, Islamic banking, sukuk, Islamic funds, and takaful, right? These are the main Islamic finance sectors and areas, all right? So if we see, okay, let me take the, okay. If you see, in Asian countries, Asia constitute 28.2% of this industry, right? GCC is 42.3% of the whole industry, and MENA, Middle Eastern North African countries, 25.1%, right? So if we see all the total asset, this is actually at the end of 2018, right? So now already 2000, because 2018 report will be published at the end of 2019. So I'm sharing with you the 2019, the update report as of today, right? So the industry size now is about 2.1, is some more, 2.4 trillion, right? 2.4, about 2.5 trillion industry. And the banking constitute 1.57 billion, right? And sukuk outstanding 530 billion, right? So if we see the percentage, the banking is 71%, right? And Sukuk is 24% of the whole industry. And Islamic funds 2.8, and Takaful is only 1.3%, right? So this is the market size of Islamic finance industry. If we see the country-wise, okay, first we can see the Kuwait. Kuwait has 6.3% of the total industry size. The largest one is Iran, 32%, Saudi Arabia, 20%, right? And Malaysia, 10%, around 11%, and Dubai, UAE, 9.8%. Because we know that when we talk about the hub of Islamic finance, there are some countries that consider the center or hub of Islamic finance, right? One of them are Malaysia, Bahrain, Dubai, and UK. Even though the United Kingdom is not a Muslim country, but they also considered as a hub for Islamic finance. Later on, we can see that in terms of providing the Islamic finance education, the awareness program, they are among the top 5 countries, right? So even though non-Muslim countries, but they also consider, because they establish all the infrastructures to provide the Islamic finance facilities. Okay. So Kuwait is much better also, 6.3%, while Bangladesh only around 2% of the global asset, right? Global Islamic finance asset. Okay. This is about Sukuk, so I will not discuss so much Sukuk because this is not our topic today. But however, in Sukuk, you can see Malaysia is always the leading country in Sukuk, both in the sovereign and the corporate Sukuk, right? So Malaysia constitute 35%, Saudi Arabia 23%. So there is no data on Kuwait. I think not much Sukuk has been issued. Maybe recently the Kuwait issued some Sukuk. Okay. Takaful is very small industry. Is, as we see before, as we saw that it's only 1.3%. Yes, it's 1.3% of the total industry. Okay, these are the some data on the size of this industry. This is quite update. As I said before, 2018 at the end, 2.5 trillion. But 2024, it is projected that it will reach at 3.4 trillion. So the industry is increasing rapidly, is almost double-digit growth, right? So currently, globally, there are 1,447 institutions, including the banks and other financial institutions. They offering Islamic finance products and services, right? 44 countries, they have Islamic finance regulation. So as of at the end of 2018, this industry has 1,166 Sharia scholars that are serving and contributing to this industry, right? Okay. And there are some other state as well. Okay, this is the development indicator. And they put some data in terms of quantitative development, in terms of providing knowledge, governance, CSR, and awareness, right? So today we can focus on Kuwait because this program is hosting from Kuwait. So Kuwait, in terms of quantitative development at 2018, I think Kuwait has done a very good job. They are number 2 in terms of the market size, right? So the industry, it means increasing rapidly and substantially. So it's a very good indication. However, in terms of providing knowledge, the position of Kuwait is 22. So I don't know, maybe yet there are not much program offered on Islamic finance, and not many seminars, many conferences has been conducted in Kuwait. But inshallah, by coming years, the rank will be very good. The governance, the Kuwait's position is number 8, and CSR. In the CSR also, Kuwait has done a good job. It becomes number 4. So the awareness, number 9. So I think in the coming years, the country needs to host more, many more program, and also need to offer many programs on Islamic finance, right? So it's good. It's good that the market is increasing, right? It's number two in terms of the quantitative development. So as you see here, the top countries in Islamic finance now, in terms of market size, knowledge, governance, CSR, and awareness, these are the few countries. For example, in the quantity market size, the Malaysia also leading, providing the knowledge and governance, because Malaysia has established the framework and infrastructure for this industry. So they issue many guidelines. They have the Islamic Banking Act, Takaful Act, and that's why I think in the governance also Malaysia in the leading position, and CSR the Jordan has leading position, and then awareness also again Malaysia. So overall, yes, there is also Kuwait in the as we saw before in market size, that Kuwait is number second position, but in other indicators, knowledge, governance, CSR awareness, Kuwait so far has no position among the top 5. These are the some sub indicators. Maybe you can see later on. So it is fine. Next, I want to share about the Islamic finance knowledge. It's very interesting. As you see, in terms of the top countries by number of Islamic finance education provided in 2018, number 1 country is Indonesia, and second country is United Kingdom. So United Kingdom is the second country, second largest country, or that second top country that provides the so much education program on Islamic finance and banking. So it's interesting. And number 3, Malaysia. Number 4 is Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and number 5, Pakistan. Right. So top countries by number of Islamic finance degree provider, also Indonesia, Malaysia, United Kingdom, Pakistan, and UAE. So these are the countries they are leading the Islamic in terms of providing Islamic finance education. Okay, this is about the research paper. Top countries with affiliation producing research paper. Research paper in Islamic finance. Number 1 is Malaysia, Indonesia, Pakistan, United Kingdom, and Saudi Arabia. The affiliation, but top countries cover in the papers. These are the countries. So I think, as I said before, Kuwait has yet to get any position in terms of providing education and Islamic finance awareness program as well. Islamic finance awareness program means organizing seminars, workshop, right, and other things, other forums. So I think the same countries: Malaysia, Pakistan, Indonesia, Dubai, and UK. Right? Okay, so this is I mean, just some introductory information, some data I want to share with you to see where is our position, and maybe we can get some direction from this, that what we have to do in the coming years, right? So I think Kuwait needs more awareness program and education program on Islamic finance like this. The other Islamic economic associations, Islamic finance association also need to come forward to organize some other more programs, seminars, forum on Islamic finance and banking. All right. So let's go to our discussion today: Islamic banking principles and practices. So first, I would like to share some thoughts on Islamic banking principles. Okay, what is Islamic finance or banking? We know that Islamic banking or Islamic finance, when we say Islamic banking, right? 2 words. And also Islamic finance, right? Al-Maliyah al-Islamiyah, al-Bunuk al-Islamiyah. So it means the finance according to Islam. The finance according to Islam. So the whole industry, Islamic banking, is founded on Sharia, right? Which express an explicit intention to meet the financial needs of participant. So Islamic finance is a system, financial system based on Sharia, that will provide the financing needs of the people, right? From various sectors or various dimensions in various way. So uh, it's not about only the legality, halal or haram. No, it's also about the fairness, justice, trustworthiness, honesty, integrity, and so on. That's why when we talk about the Islamic banking and finance is not only halal and haram. Now also we are focusing, this industry is focusing to provide much more maqasid compliant products, right? This industry is now trying to provide the products, the services that is so much in line with maqasid Sharia and also the SDG of United Nations, right? So Malaysia has provides a framework on Maqasid Sharia that how Maqasid Sharia can be implemented institutionally, right? So they call it BBI, value-based intermediation. So my point here, we are not now in a stage that to say only halal and haram, no. We also, Alhamdulillah, has reached in a stage that whether we can see this product is serving the socio-economic objectives or not. Yes, there could have argument that how much we can obtain and how how good we have done, but still we reach at this stage that we are now bargaining, we are now discussing also the industry, these industry products in terms of maqasid, not only in terms of the legality, whether it is only halal and haram, no. Okay? So it's like halal and tayyib, right? So we are not now only halal, we are also focusing on halal and tayyib, both. Right? There is the tayyib is another additional value in the halal. Right? Okay. So the fundamental of this banking, when we talk about Islamic banking, it is all about the profit-driven activities. It is not interest-based activities, right? So what is the difference between the interest and profit? What is the difference when if we can understand that what is the difference between profit and interest, so we can easily understand also the difference between Islamic banking and other conventional banking, right? So profit means is all about the exchange of commodity with money, or exchange of money with commodity and then money, right? So but interest is money exchange for money. So in Islamic law, money can be treated as capital only. Money is a potential capital, right? Money cannot be treated as commodity. Money is not mal. Is the money is money, right? So money is capital, is rasul mal. Is not the commodity. So for example, in conventional, they lend money to get more money, right? So they lend the $100, so they receive $110, right? So $10 is the interest. But Islamic banking, they also will do the same. Means they also will get $10, but they will get $10 as profit. How? Because they will convert money first into the commodity, right? And then by selling the commodity, they will make $10 profit. Right? So money will be converted to the commodity and then can be converted again to the money. Then it will be profit. But money for money, it is interest. So this point, I think, should be clear among our educators and students and researchers. Some people shortly confused. They cannot shortly answer that what is the difference between profit and interest. So this is the fundamental of this industry, this banking. This banking is profit oriented. What does it mean profit oriented? Means it is based on exchanging the commodity. So it means another way, it is related to something, a real economy. If you want to make profit in this industry, this system, you have to do some real economic activities, right? You have to either go for sale, go for lease, go for partnership and other Sharia compliant contracts, right? So this is fundamental. Also, another things, risk sharing is not risk transferring, right? Yes, there could have controversy that how much share actually the bank is sharing, but the inherent feature of this banking, this system is the risk sharing, is not the risk transferring. For example, in the interest-based system, You borrow $100 and you will pay $120, right? So the lender or the loan shark, he or she doesn't care whether you do profit or you do loss, right? At the end of the period, right, he will get he looking for only the interest, $110 or $120. So all the risk is on the borrower, not on the lender. But in principle, in Islamic banking, because it has risk sharing contract, partnership contract, even though in practice the portion is very minimum, like mudaraba, like musharaka, right? It's all risk sharing. So, for example, if we do partnership in mudaraba, so we share the risk and we share the loss, right? Both the partners will share the loss. Uh, the mudarib will lose his management skill, his management time, effort, and the Rabbul Mal will lose the capital, right? So this is all about the risk sharing. And another thing, when we say profit, that profit must come with liability and effort, because the Sharia principle says al kharaju bid daman, right? Al kharaju bid daman means the profit should should be associated with liability. So it means if you cannot take any liability, if you cannot take any risk, you cannot make any profit, right? That will be interest. Is interest in interest? There is no sharing the liability. All liability will be on the borrower, nothing on the lender. Also effort. If you want to make some money, some wealth, do some job, put some effort. So only making effort and taking liability can justify for a Muslim to get and to obtain the wealth. If neither you take liability nor making any profit, so you cannot, nor making any effort, so your profit, your amount will not be justified. So that will be uh, taking other people's with an injustice, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, what? La ta'kulu amwalakum bainakum bil batil. So if you take other people's money without any liability, without making any effort, so you are taking for what? Out of nothing, right? For nothing. So taking something for nothing is taking with al-batil, with just injustice. Right? So these are the main difference between, and these are the some fundamentals of Islamic banking. And of course, at the end, it is subject to Sharia, right? Everything will be uh, based on the Islamic principles and values. Okay. Um, when we talk about Islamic banking or Islamic finance, of course, some things will be very common with other banking system, conventional, because in terms of the business viability, your business project, your business should be viable and profitable, and this banking industry also should meet the customers' financing needs, right? And there is risk return policy, and also at the same time you should follow the rules and regulation of the country, legally compliant, and also regulatory framework. So these are some common things. The conventional industry also need to follow the country's rules and regulation, right? They also do the risk and return analysis. Their business, they also think about the profitability of the business. These are the common. Now, what is the main difference? One point only, an additional point for this banking is Sharia compliant, right? So apart from all other requirement, this banking system should be compliant. The Sharia principles should follow the Sharia. So that's why when we talk about the governance, apart from corporate governance, Islamic banking system has another governance system that is called Sharia governance, right? So I think almost all the countries offering this Islamic banking, Malaysia, Dubai, Bahrain, Bangladesh, they time to time they provide the governance framework and guideline, right? Malaysian Central Bank, Bank Negara Malaysia, they provide also a very comprehensive framework and governance system, so that in each and every stage of offering, everything shall be Sharia compliant, right? So there is AOFI. I think our audience is so much familiar with AOFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. They also provide the Sharia governance for this industry, right? So they also provide the the Sharia review, internal Sharia review, Sharia audit, Sharia governance framework. So there are many mechanisms. So what is the objective of this mechanism? To ensure that apart from fulfilling other requirements, this system, this banking system must comply with the Sharia principles and rulings, right? Okay, because this system is should be compliant with Sharia. So I want to show you here which part of Sharia, right? Sharia is very comprehensive and very big things, right? Sharia is not any small portion. Sharia has faith, Sharia has law, fiqh, and Sharia has ethics, right? So this industry is not have any relation with the faith. It means the non-Muslim also can come in this industry, in this banking system, can be benefited, can invest also in Islamic banking, right? So there is no barrier from Sharia part that non-Muslim cannot join in this industry. So our relation is so much about the law. So when we talk about law, it means fiqh, right? So fiqh has also two types, as we know, ibadat and muamalat. So our relation is here with muamalat, right? Since muamalat is uh, everything except ibadat, right? So everything means there is also some other things that is not related to finance. There is jinayat, there is munakahat, family law, there is siyasat, and then there is mali al-Islami, right? And this fiqhul mali al-Islamiyah govern the Islamic banking and finance, right? So as a conclusion, Islamic banking is subject to fiqh al-muamalat al-maliyah, right? So Islamic banking in all of its practice, products, services must be compliant with the rulings of fiqh muamalat, with the rulings of Islamic commercial law, right? Okay. So when we talk about the fiqh muamalat, let me share with you some fundamentals of fiqh muamalat, which is very interesting and very flexible, which provides the flexibility and the smoothness in this banking industry. Actually, the beauty and the success of Islamic banking is not only for the banking and for the people, is only for Islam, is only for these rulings, this fiqh muamalat. Because fiqh muamalat provide that kind of smoothness, that kind of beauty, that kind of flexibility, right? Al-yusr, as-sa'a, right? As-sa'a for this industry. For example, fiqh muamalat depends on fundamental principle and general maxim. Is معتمد على القواعد الكليات, right? دون الجزئيات. So the detailed rulings, which is called juz'iyat, is not considered here. Is subject to kulliyat, right? It means uh, riba is haram, interest is haram, right? This is kulliya. So if you found any products is involved with the interest, then it cannot be Sharia compliant. But fiqh muamalat does not provide and cannot provide the rulings for each and every product in details, right? It's only we can provide some kulliyat, some fundamental principles. So any kind of product, any kind of services will be investigated based on the fundamentals. For example, the prohibition of riba, hurmatul gharar, hurmatul maisir, right? Prohibition of taking other people's injustice, hurmatu akli amwalin nas bil batil. So these are the fundamentals, kulliyat, right? And second point, the freedom of product designing, right? Al-usuliyun yaqulun aw qalu al-aslu fil muamalat al-ibaha, right? And we also have one other source in Islamic law for fiqh muamalat we call istishab. What does it mean, istishab? Istishab means we can maintain status quo, we can maintain the present situation. So the status quo for each and every ruling is permissible. This is also called al-bara'a al-asliya, right? So everything is permissible unless you can prove otherwise, right? For example, I bring a product, a new product, or product development officer can come up with a new product, right? So we cannot ask that what is the evidence for this product? What is the dalil? Mad dalil ala ibahati hazal muntaj? La. We cannot say like that. So what is the process? There are some checklists. We can see whether is there any prohibited element in this product, in this structure, right? Uh, so is there any something related to the interest, or mycir, or other things, right? Other or non-ethical activities, or any kind of cheating, fraud, deception? No. So if there is no portion of there is no prohibited elements, then we can say okay, it is Sharia compliant. So it is very flexible, right? So this this system, this Sharia gives so much flexibility for the product development officer, for the bankers, right, to design any kind of product structure in order to meet the customer demands, right? So al-Muslimuna ala shuruti, the Prophet mentioned, means we are free to design our contract, whatever conditions, terms and condition we can put, as long as uh, it doesn't make halal haram and doesn't make haram halal, right? So another thing, fiqh muamalat apprises human reasoning and welfare. So this is, I mentioned at the beginning that uh, in principle, this industry also is not only the profit-oriented industry. It is also so much in line with the socio-economic activities so that can be achieved. That's why the fiqh muamalat prescribe some welfare contract and arrangement. For example, waqaf, hiba, sadaqa, qardul hasan, zakat. And these contracts also now uh, amalgamated, mixed, right, and practiced within the regime of this banking system, right? For example, Islamic banking industry, Islamic finance industry now offering so much Waqaf link product, right? Waqaf based deposit, Waqaf based sukuk, right? Waqaf link product, cash Waqaf, right? Also, there are arrangement of hiba, for example, in takaful, right? Sadaqa and qardul hasan. So we can say that in principle also we have to do this kind of activities to ensure the benefit of the society and human being. And finally, it is between rigid and flexibility. Yes, we are rigid. This industry or this system is rigid. Why? Because there is no tolerance, no compromise with riba, no compromise with the prohibited elements, right? No compromise with taking other people's wealth without any valid justification. When we take money from other people, we have to have a valid justification. Why I took his money? Is it based on a Sharia compliant contract? Is it exchange, or is it he donated me, or what? If there is no valid justification, so we cannot take other people's property, right? So these are the rigidity, strict, thabat, right? This Sharia al-fiqh bain al-thabat wal-mutaghayyirat, flexibility. So it also has flexibility, means the rulings will be subject to the situation and circumstances. That's why we have seen some differences also in the practice of Islamic banking offerings and practices country to country, right? So there is no harm in this. Maybe this is subject to the circumstances of that country. So Sharia gives that kind of flexibility. Okay, so these are some fundamentals we have to focus on it, right? When we talk about the banking and financing practices. Okay. Okay. In addition, there are also some other points that shall be observed in Islamic banking practices, especially when we go for structuring the Islamic banking products, and also we go for product developing for this industry. For example, the mutual consent, the agreement, the mutual agreement among the contracting parties. Uh, Nowadays, we may see that there are a lot of documentation of any product of Islamic banks, right? Sometimes the client, they just sign, they don't read, right? Details. Even there are some terms and condition they never know, right? So if customers sign without reading the documents, So it means customers agreement and customer consent is not there, right? So when we offer the Islamic any product to the customer, we must ensure that there is enough agreement from the customer side. So because otherwise the transaction will be invalid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned what? Illa an takuna tijara an taradin bainakum. Right? So it must be subject to the mutual agreement. All right. So consuming other wealth illegally is prohibited. So this is also related to mutual consent. If you deal with the customer and you sell your product to the customer without having his agreement, so it means you are taking his money unjustly, right? And this taking will be invalid. And also another point, transparency and disclosure, right? So everything must be disclosed, whatever you put as a terms and conditions, right? So everything must be disclosed and must be mentioned to the customer. And prohibition of course, riba, gharar, and gambling is another fundamentals. And welfare and public benefit, I mentioned earlier, and productivity and real economic activities, commodity based, right? So as I discussed also earlier, that this industry, this banking, Islamic banking, is so much related to the real economic activities based on the commodity, right? Okay. Uh, as we said that Islamic banking is commodity based banking, right? Any contracts you do, there should have underlying commodity, right? labudda hunaka mubadalatu mal bil mal, labudda hunaka mal. There is something called property, commodity. So what is property? uh, the scholar have many definition of the property. So the property also has many kinds of property. For example, this could be ain, right? This could be manfa, and this could be haq. Ain means tangible asset, right? Something that has physical existence. Sayyara, for example. A car. Manfa means benefit, right? For example, the benefit of the house, the benefit of the car, right? And haq means rights. So haqqul, for example, the copyright, the patent, the trademark, right? So what I try to say here that whatever will be exchanged uh, through Islamic banking practices, that exchange should be based on mal, based on property, based on commodity. So that commodity could be the tangible commodity, tangible asset. That could be intangible asset, which is manfa'a, benefit, and that could be also the rights, right? For example, haqqul murur, right? And copyright and so on. So a scholar also, Muslim scholar also provides some other classification of mal. Here I put mal istihlaki, istimali, mutaqawwim, gairi mutaqawwim, manqul, gairi manqul, misli, qimi. I think all of this classification, all of this has impact and implication in the exchange contract, right? Uh, so this is we have to be familiar with all these types of mal, right? Okay. Another important aspect of Islamic banking, and which is the fundamental difference also between this banking and conventional banking, that any kind of product or services or any types of practice that must be based on a Sharia compliant contract, right? For example, uh, it could be either the sale contract, it could be the lease contract, it could be either partnership contract. But for conventional, they don't have any contract. They have just relationship as a borrower and lender, lending and borrowing. For example, you see here you can see here the deposit side. This is the deposit side. The relationship in conventional is all about the lender and borrower. Right? But for Islamic, the relationship will be different based on the contract, based on the underlying contract. So, for example, the depositor and custodian relationship. If you put wadia, for example, in Islamic bank, they can use wadia for deposit collection. So the relationship will be depositor and custodian, right? And then also the relationship could be the lender and borrower, but without interest, Qardul Hasan, right? Without interest. And also the relationship could be uh, entrepreneur and manager, means Mudaraba, right? Mudaraba. So we can see that the relationship for Islamic banking products in the deposit side will be different based on the contract, based on the underlying contract. So any kinds of product in Islamic banking, whether deposit and financing, it shall be based on a Sharia compliant contract. Right? Same goes to the financing side or investment side. You see the conventional banking, again, their relation is only one, borrowing and lending, right? For the deposit, the bank borrow from the depositor. And for the financing or investment, the customer borrow from the bank. Right? But for Islamic, no. Islamic, they must use any contract. For example, in financing, they can use buyer and seller relationship. For example, in the contract of Murabaha, it is buying and selling relationship. In the contract of Ijara, it is a lessee and lessor relationship. In the contract of Wakala, principal and agent relationship. In the contract of Mudaraba, investment, entrepreneur and investor relationship. So the relationship also will be different, right, based on the underlying contract. So this is another fundamental difference of Islamic banking compared to its counterpart, right? Okay, since Islamic bank use many types of contract, basically the bilateral or exchange contract, right? So there are many types of contract. For example, the contract of exchange, muawadat, right? Muawadat by the sale contract. There are also many types of sale contract. Contract of security, tawthiqat, right? Uqud tawthiqat. For example, Rahman, kafala, these are the uqud tawthiqat. Contract of partnership, mudaraba, musharaka. Contract of safe custody, wadi'a, right? Contract pertaining to the utilization of usufruct, benefit, manfa'a. For example, ijara, right? And then contract pertaining to do a work, like wakala and juala. So these are the some types of bilateral contract, and that has been practiced in Islamic banking offerings, right? And of course, as I mentioned, any product must be designed based on the contract. Why? Because the contract will define the right and responsibilities, the terms and condition of the contract. That's why in documentation, it must be reflected. Some people argue that, okay, just simply you use a contract and it becomes Sharia compliant. No, because it has reflection. When I say the sale, so the pillars and the terms and condition, the shurut, everything must be reflected, right? When I say ijara, so ijara has its own dawabit, shurut, and ahkam, everything must be reflected in the documentation. So it's not just you use the word simply and it becomes Sharia compliant, no, right? So that's why in the application also, it has differences, it has implications, it has effect, right? So that's why it is so much significant to say that all the products and services must be based on any underlying Sharia compliant contract. Okay. Okay. I think this slide is very much important because I put all the contracts and products of Islamic banking together here. Uh, as I mentioned, there are many categories of contract, like sale-based contract or sale-based product, lease-based, partnership, and service-based. Okay, you see in the sale-based, there are some contract, for example, Murabaha, right? By Muajjal or BBA. BBA is the Malaysian version of by Muajjal. BBA means buy Bithaman al-Ajil, sell with the deferred price. Okay, so deferred sale with a markup. So this is also sale contract, right? So this contract has been used for many products. For example, asset financing, trade financing, to finance or to invest for export and import business, the home financing, car financing, to provide working capital, overdraft service, commodity morabaha practice, and LC, right? letter of credit. So these are the products can be offered, and it has been offering based on the murabaha or by muajjal. And then when we there is also another sale contract is called salam, forward sale, right? We know salam, right? It's not assalamu alaikum. Huh? Salam, we will discuss later on details. Salam means advance payment. You take money advance, and the commodity will be paid later on. This is called forward sale. So it is mostly related to agro financing, right? Agro-based product. And another one, similar to salam, is called istisna. Is spelling mistake? Istisna, right? Is manufacturing contract. So istisna can be used, and it's been using for asset financing, project financing, and BOT, build, operate, transfer. So to finance for any mega project or big equipment, right? For example, to construct the airport, highway, or power plant, shipbuilding, right? Aircraft industry. So all these can be financed based on istisna contract. Right? There is also another contract, which is I say tawarruk, right? Tawarruk. Tawarruk is also sale-based contract, and tawarruk also has been using for personal financing, commodity murabaha, credit card, and Islamic interbank liquidity management, right? So you see, this is all sale-based contract, and this sale-based contract, any of the contract can be used to offer these kinds of products, right? And then we have also lease-based contract. Lease, when we say lease-based contract, it can be simple lease. We call it operational lease, right? Typical lease, al-ijara al-mutlaqa, right? For example, car financing. Also, there is, but operational lease is very few, is not much practice in banking, in industry, and it is mostly used ijara muntahiya bit tamlik. This is called finance lease, right? Ijara that will be ended with transferring the ownership. For example, I rent you my home, and gradually by paying the rentals at the end of the maturity period, you become the owner. Transfer or ownership will be transferred to the client. Ijara muntahiya bitamlik, right? And also there is another same ijara wal iktina. There is another term also called ijara wal iktina, lease and then acquisition. You lease, and at the end you will get the asset, right? And this is all applicable for car financing, or in Malaysia it is called aitab, ijara summa al-bay, right? First lease, and then the bank will sell the asset to the customer. So this is lease based. And then also there is partnership based. Partnership based is very common. We know mudaraba, silent partnership, musharaka, active partnership, and there is also one called diminishing musharaka. Musharaka mutanafisa, right? I think diminishing musharaka, we discuss later the details and the structure of each and every one, inshallah, each and every product. So diminishing musharaka means the partnership of the bank will decrease gradually. For example, the banks and customer, they purchase a home. So customer portion is 10% and bank portion is 90%, right? So after paying each and every rental, the customer portion will increase gradually one by one, and bank's portion will be decreased. So at the end, customer portion ownership will be 100% and bank's ownership will be 0%. So this is called musharaka mutanafisa, or diminishing partnership, right? So this is very much common for home financing, to buy the home, and also more deposit product, investment product, because this is mudaraba, right? Mudaraba is mostly used for the deposit side. Not much use in the financing side. Okay, working capital, interbank money market, project financing, LC, right? So these products can be designed and structured based on the partnership-based contract mudaraba musharaka. And also, lastly, there is also called service-based contract. For example, wadia. Wadia is for safe custody. You can deposit, you can put your money as a safe custody, as an amana to the bank. You don't want to, you don't need any profit, and you don't want to take any profit. Safe custody. Also vaulting service. We can rent the vault into the bank, and we can put our documents and anything. So this is what they are. And then kafala, guarantee service, right? Banks provide the guarantee for those uh, who are mostly not eligible to to get financing from the bank, right? Or also any other party can provide the guarantee. This is a part of credit enhancement process. Also, there are some third party also, they provide the guarantee for the bank customer so that the customer can get financing from the bank. So this is kafala. There is also wakala, agency contract, right? Uh, for example, wakala bil istismar, right? Agency for investment now becomes very common and popular. So you can, a rich man can put some money, can a big amount of money to the bank, and can appoint the bank as his wakil to manage his portfolio, his investment portfolio, right? And the bank will get the fee as a fixed percentage, right? From there. So this is wakala. Also, bank provide many other services based on wakala. Even LC, the letter of credit, also based on wakala. There is also hawala, is money transferring or fund transferring, is hawala, and also ujra, ujra service based. For example, credit card nowadays offering based on ujra. Right? So you see custodian service, deposit, guarantee, agency, remittance, LC, credit card, ATM, right? So in this slide, I summarize all the contracts mostly, and also all the products and practices that has been offering by Islamic finance or Islamic banking industry. All right. Okay. I think some more and then I will finish. So I think I will focus only today on the principles, Islamic banking principles. Maybe the practices we can share later on in any other session, inshallah. Okay. As we
Yes,
said that, yes.
yes, Dr. Habib, no problem, inshallah. We can have another lecture in future, in near future. So today about Islamic banking principles is okay, inshallah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, I will finish at the principles. Okay, I think some more few slides. So the pillars of the contract. Why we are talking pillars of the contract? Because as I mentioned many times, as I discussed that every products, any kind of product and services of this banking system is based on the contract, right? So every contract, when we say a contract have the pillars should be fulfilled, right? So what are the pillars of the contract? As we know that regardless of the scholars agreement and disagreement, right? There are some things as considered in the pillar or essential part. For example, the format, the offer and acceptance, the subject matter is price and commodity, and then the contracting parties, offerer and acceptor or buyer and seller. And there are some requirements for each and everything that must be fulfilled and must be reflected in the documentation of the banking product, right? For example, the offer and acceptance must be clear and must be consistent, right? And the format, right? So that it reflects the mutual consent, the mutual agreement of the contracting parties. So it can be displayed, it can be expressed in any form, verbally or in the written form or by gesture or by maintaining the silence. It doesn't matter. The point is it must reflect the agreement and the consent of the contracting parties. Right? That's why I said earlier that when we provide the documentation, we must ensure that the customer should read the documentation before signing so that the customer can give his consent, right? Just only signing without reading doesn't mean that customer is agree, right? So the mutual consent should be available there. That's why the format must be in line with the fiqh and Sharia principles. And also when we talk about the contracting parties, right, there is something called the legal capacity or ahliya. So we must ensure that the parties we are dealing is legally eligible, right, to undertake my financing, to undertake my service. For example, if the person is sick, is crazy, is insane, or is something called weakness of intellect, is suffer, or is drunk, or is bankrupt, right? So the bank cannot deal with that customer, right? That's why the customer's legal capacity, customer solvency, right, and customer soundness should be observed. And maybe in the form, of course, there are some checklists so that the bank can ensure that customer is fully and legally capable, right, to deal with the banks and to undertake any financial dealings. Okay. And finally, is the requirement of the contract subject matter is about the price and commodity, right? So when we say subject matter, yes, it is commodity, it is price, performance, and consideration. But the point is the subject matter should be permissible, legal, should be available, and it should be something that customer can make delivery on time, right? And the purpose of this transaction shall be Sharia compliant. So in the banking practice, the bank must ensure that when the bank provides financing, the bank should finance uh, for the commodity that must be in line with the Sharia principles. Means the commodity must be halal commodity, Sharia compliant commodity must be available, right? For example, the bank cannot finance for the tobacco industry, for example. The bank cannot finance for a casino center, right? Something like that. So that will not be permissible for Islamic banks to provide financing for that kind of thing, right? That's why the financing application, the underwriting process should be there to ensure that the whole project, the underlying commodity, everything should be Sharia compliant, right? Um, Finally, the last slide, want to share the final slide on Islamic banking principles uh, to introduce the major prohibition. That is, I already covered in my discussion, but together, the major prohibition in Islamic framework of business, that of course, riba, number one, and gharar. We know gharar, right? Gharar means uncertainty. Gharar means also, in the modern definition, any kind of cheating, any kinds of deception, any kind of misinformation, right? Misrepresentation, any kind of hiding. For example, nowadays in many products, a customer just signed, but there are hidden terms and conditions. That is exactly gharar. Later on, when dispute arises, then customers say, no, I don't know about these terms and condition, right? So any kind of non-disclosure that should be disclosed also will be considered the gharar, right? So gharar nowadays in modern context has come with a broad context, right? Gharar should be translated in a broad sense. Also gambling, right? So the Islamic banking offering financing investment should not have any relation with the gambling. And also tala'ub, manipulation, manipulating with the information, manipulating with the product and financing. Ihtikar, hoarding, right? And najash, artificial price hiking, right? Najash means is mostly can relate with the stock market, that artificially to create artificial demand and supply so that the price will be increased. And then also at least deception. So these are the major prohibition that should not be involved in any products and services of Islamic banking practices. All right. So I think that's all from me on the Islamic banking principles. Maybe in the next session, anytime we will cover on Islamic banking practices, categorizing on deposit, financing, and services, inshallah. Okay, thank you very much. It has been 1 hour. I thank all the audience for nicely listening, because I know it's very challenging to focus on the lecture in online particularly. So again, thank you very much, and thank you to the host and organizers. هذا وبالله التوفيق والهداية. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Shukran jazila, Dr. Habibur Rahman. Barakallahu feek. MashaAllah, that's a very wonderful lecture and very informative, essential lecture. You presented brilliantly, mashallah. Thank you very much. So, dear audience and participants, today, as in summary, I want to just point out some information that has been covered in the lecture. So first of all, we knew some informative informative things from Dr. Habib and data in Muslim world, Islamic world, and also other part of the world about Islamic banking and finance practicing. And then we knew what is Islamic banking, especially he pointed out some fundamental of Islamic banking like profit driven Islamic banking, not interest driven, and money is potential capital only. Money cannot be treated as commodity, and other like risk sharing Islamic banking system, and also the subject to Sharia. These are the fundamental of Islamic banking. And we also knew from the lecture some Islamic banking essentials. Essentials like business value, viability, customers' financing needs, and risk and return, and legally compliant, Sharia compliant, and also regularity framework. These are the essentials of Islamic bankings. We also know, learned from the lecture today. And we also knew from the lecture that the Islamic banking and finance based on fiqh al-muamalat. As you know, in the Sharia, there are aqidah, fiqh, and akhlaq, and there is a fiqh al-ibadah and fiqh al-muamalat. So these are the fundamental information of Islamic banking and finance. And also we learned from the lecture some key points that shall be observed in Islamic banking practices as mutual consent, consuming others' wealth illegally is prohibited in Islam, and prohibition of riba and welfare and public benefit, and many other also key points we learned from the lecture today. And and lastly, types of bilateral contract. There are the contract we already know and learned from the lecture from the Dr. Habibur Rahman, and types of contracts and Islamic banking contracts and products. There are some categories and contracts and products. So we learned from his lecture like sale-based contract and a lease-based contract, partnership-based contract, and service-based contract. So these are very important information and also principles of Islamic banking. And we also learn pillars of a contract, how to have or conduct a contract. And there are parties and there are words of contract we learned from the lecture. And I believe that all participants have the slides of the lecture. And if you go through the slides and you can study and you can learn more about today's lecture as well. And lastly, we learned from today's lecture some major prohibitions in Islamic banking and finance, like riba, gharar, and misyar, ihtikar, and najis, and tadlis. These are some major prohibitions in Islamic banking and finance. So these are the summary at large. In summary, we summarize some points from today's lecture, from the lecture of Dr. Habib Rahman. So now I would like to open the floor for question and answer. So if any participant or attendee would like to ask any question, please unmute your unmute session. You just unmute and then you can ask any question or any clarification or explanation that you need. If there is any question or any استفسار هل في سؤال أو استفسار فليتفضل مشكور يعني إما باللغة العربية أو الإنجليزية لا بأس به. هل هناك سؤال أو استفسار؟ There are questions, I think, written. Okay, kindly explain the bay at tawarruk, Dr. Habib.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for the question. Tawarruk is basically a sale contract. The underlying contract is Murabaha, is selling a commodity, right? We know Murabaha is selling a commodity with a markup, right? Cost plus profit. But Tawarruk is the objective of Tawarruk is not to get the commodity. The objective of Tawarruk is to get the financing. This is considered the liquidity management tool. This is one of the liquidity management tool. For example, to understand simply, let's say you need $1,000, right? And I have $1,000, but I don't want to give you free. I want to make some profit on it. So because I cannot give you cash, because if I give you cash, I cannot make any extra. That will be interest, right? Money for money. So I have to go for commodity. So I can ask you why you need $1,000 to buy a laptop. Okay, so we can agree that or to for anything. Let's say for anything. Okay, I can buy a laptop for you for $1,000, but I will sell you with $1,100. So $100 will be my profit that you can pay me later on, right? That is on credit. But you need cash. So you can sell the laptop to the market with $1,000 and you can manage your cash. So it's all about the idaratu suyula, it is called managing the liquidity. But we cannot manage the liquidity by liquidity. That's why we have to go for commodity. So this is the simple tawarruk. This is the simple tawarruk, right? Uh, to buy an asset from the market or from someone on credit, and then to sell it on cash to the third party. This is tawarruk. There is also another contract similar to tawarruk is called bayul ina. But what is the difference between ina and tawarruk? Both are contract for liquidity management, but in ina, the buyer and the seller is the same person. I sell from him, and also I buy from him, and also I sell back to him. This is ina. But tawarruk is not like that. Tawarruk is I sell from you and I buy from you the asset and I will sell it to another third party. The objective is the same, to manage the liquidity. So there are details on tawarruk. Maybe we can discuss in another lecture the details, structure, products, and also it is in my slides. You can go through also. Okay. Thank you
Okay,
very much for the
thank you
question.
very much, Dr. Habib. That's a brilliant answer. So another question, could you please develop how Islamic banking principles would be an added value to economic efficiency? Islamic banking principles would be an added value to economic efficiency.
Yes, it is a very good question, and thank you for the question, Ustaz Zakaria Shavon, and thank you also. Uh, the principles that I have outlined and discussed, I think it is, if we can think deeply, we can easily get the idea that how these principles can add the value. For example, when we say about profit, when we say about exchanging with the commodity, then we must go for an commodity, right? So someone should produce that commodity. So that is all related to the economic activities. The commodity should be available in the outside so that we can deal. So first of relating all the products, all the offerings to the commodity is will add a value to the economic efficiency and activities. And number two, also I discussed that the addition of the welfare contract, right? The waqaf, hiba, sadaqat, and also other things, and maqasid sharia, that will add also value into the economic efficiency in terms of achieving the socio-economic goals and sustainable development goals, right? Also, when we talk about the risk sharing, right? The risk sharing also, if we can practice it as it is, it will create a balance and economic equilibrium, right? And justice into the system. And also, last but not least, when I said about the all products must be related to an underlying contract. So that underlying contract can be the sale, can be lease, can be partnership, can be others. That also, of course, will add the value to the economic activities, right? I think briefly that's all. I think all the points we can relate and can add the value to the economic efficiency.
Yeah,
Thank you.
شكرا دكتور حبيب. There is another question. ماذا رأيكم عن صيغة التقسيط في التمويلات المصرفية؟ في التمويلات المصرفية ماذا رأيكم عن صيغة التقسيط؟
Okay, shukran. Has a solve for this question. I think the question is very general. Uh, the installment, sigatu taqsid, right? The installment format or anything. So the installment, of course, all the credit sale, the customer will prefer to pay by installment, right? There are many issues and many things. I think this is very general questions. Installment in the murabaha, installment in the lease contract, and based on the contract, the installment process and principles and concept also will be the different. But the point is, if it is sale contract, right, then the contract price shall be fixed. That's why once the contract has been done, there cannot be any increase, any ziyada if it's someone, right? Because in the sale contract, the price shall be fixed and determined. However, when we talk about the lease and the contract of ijara, it is quite dynamic. Quite dynamic in a sense that the rental amount can be adjusted with the market up and down, right? So if it is installment in the ijara contract, for example, ijara summa albay or ijara mutahiya bitamlik, then can change, can increase and decrease in the installment. But if it is in the murabaha contract, for example, it cannot be increased, right? So I think I found this question is very general. So I try to put in the context in this way, right? An installment in the sale contract and installment in the lease contract. Okay,
Yeah.
shukran.
Thank you very much. Another general question: are there committees or like international body to monitor either locally or at a global stage to ensure to comply like the banks or other associations, Hayya Khairiya or Hayya Al Maliya Al Islamiyya, comply with Sharia? Are there any bodies or committees to ensure that either locally or at international level?
Thank you very much. Yes, this is a very important question. Yes, there are many bodies, even locally and internationally also. For example, if we talk about the internationally, I think you have heard about AOFI.
Yeah,
Uh, AOFI provide al-ma'ayir Sharia standards, right? The AOFI based on Bahrain. And I
yeah.
think everybody likes and loves AOFI because AOFI try to provide the standard is so much close to Sharia. I mean, they normally do not make any compromise in terms of following the Sharia. So, and in Middle East, some countries, the AOFI is compulsory to follow. It's called binding, right? And so AOFI is there. Uh, and also, if we talk about the globally, the IFSB, just now at the beginning, I show Islamic Financial Services Board based on Malaysia. They also provide the standard and prudential guideline. And IFSB also have subscription or membership with many countries, right? And also there are some other global standard providers and regulators. But in the country wise, every central bank has this commitment to ensure that the Islamic banks of the country is following and complying with Sharia principles. Yeah,
Like
I'm talking.
Sharia board, like Sharia board of the banks, like that. In every
Yeah, yes,
country,
yeah,
we have
yeah,
Sharia
yes,
board.
yes. Also, there are Sharia boards in the bank itself, and also there are Sharia board also in the central bank. For example, I'm talking from Malaysia. So if I take the example of Malaysia, Malaysia has following the double layer Sharia screening process or double layer standard. I mean Sharia supervision. For example, Malaysian Central Bank has Sharia Advisory Council (SSC), right? So and SSC's decision is binding for other Islamic banks of the country. And also for each and every bank, also they have their own Sharia board. The job is to ensure that the bank is following the rules and regulation and ensuring that all the practices of banks is in compliance with Sharia. So there are many level of supervision. It's not only one level. And there is also, as I discussed in my lecture, Sharia audit, Sharia review, Sharia internal review, Sharia committee. So there are many layers in the bank itself, right? And also there are a supervision from the central bank, and there are supervision also from the global bodies. So Alhamdulillah, there are many stages to ensure the Sharia compliance in each and every practices of Islamic banks. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Habib. There is another important question. That is, لماذا حرم مجمع الفقه الإسلامي التورق المصرفي؟ يعني we call it like التورق المنظم. لماذا حرمه مجمع الفقه الإسلامي؟ هل
Uh,
هناك يعني
yes, yes.
أسباب؟
The tawarruk, simple tawarruk is called shukran li hadha sual, jazakumullah khair. Tawarruk al-fiqhi, there is no issue, la kalam fi tawarruk al-fiqhi. نعم هناك خلاف في التورق المنظم or organized tawarruk. So even Allama Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, they also do not or did not allow tawarruk al-munazzam, and they found that this is can be considered as a kind of hila, as a kind of trick to avoid the riba intentionally, right? So that's the main part. That's the main part. But for other scholars, this argument can be answered. Even AOFI also did not prohibit and did not prevent the practice of tawarruk munazam. AOFI also allow, but with the condition that all the sale contracts must fulfill the requirements of the sale and purchase contract, so that it can be a real buying and it can be a real selling, a real sale, right? So overall, the tawarruk munazam can be practiced, but with terms and condition to ensure that it is a genuine contract. So when we talk about Malaysia, I think most of our audience have heard about Bursa Suq Sela. Bursa Suq As-Sela fi Malaysia, Malaysian Commodity Exchange Market. And this is an electronic-based platform, and they have the enough commodity, crude palm oil, right? They have enough commodity to facilitate this tawarruk, to ensure that the contract is original, and there are also listed brokers. So there is no chance that the buying and selling is happening with the same broker again and again. No. So we have visited and we have talked with the professionals and officers in there. So they said we can say that we try always to make the contract original. So if the contract is original, then I think there is not much issue in terms of being Sharia compliant, right? So if any other country can establish this infrastructure to ensure that the contract is genuine, so I think there will be not this will not be a big issue. Right? Can be practiced. Wallahu alam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just would like to add another name of the body. I think we can say Arisra in Malaysia to to ensure Islamic compliant, Sharia compliant principles or practices in the banks. Is it? Can we say? I mean, the
But
previous question answer. Like
ISRA
Arisra.
is thank you for the addition. Yes, but ISRA basically to provide the education and training.
Oh,
ISRA does not have any authority
fine.
power authorization.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. There is another question from Brother Muhammad Azim. كيف تكون المرابحة في المصارف الحكومية؟ كيف تكون المرابحة في المصارف الحكومية؟
كيف تكون مثل ما تكون في المصارف غير الحكومية. I think can be practiced in the same way. If the Masarif al-Hukumiyya, you means the government bank, right? Government banks.
Yeah, I think government banks, yeah.
So if government
Public
banks,
bank, like public banks, they are
public bank,
practicing maybe some salaries, some other expenditures or practices under government. So we call it public banks. So maybe he meant that public banks.
Uh, okay, so if the bank is basically conventional based, then of course to offer the Murabaha, bank will be agreed to open and window, and also another some branches, subsidiaries. There are some levels to offering the banking products. For example, a bank can open some windows, means some branches of the bank, not all branches. In from some branches, they can offer the Islamic banking products. For example, Bangladesh is now offering many conventional bank in Bangladesh is now offering Islamic banking products. So even the government bank also. So I think if the point is a conventional bank, how can they offer the Islamic products? So they can offer based on opening some windows, or they can establish independent subsidiary, and then they can go the full-fledged. So there are three stages: windows, subsidiaries, and later on full-fledged. And the point is, it's okay, but only the accounting treatment, and the record, the accounting record, the credit and debit, that shall be treated separately, so that the fund will not be commingled with the conventional fund. Right? That shall be observed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Habibur Rahman. I think we are almost to end this session today. So I just got another recommendation from Dr. Salam. He would like to have like practical, applicable session according to this important lecture today. So I mean, I think what he mean is like to have another practical session or like workshop or training. So I first of all I would like to thank Dr. Ala and Nadil Iqtasad al-Islami bil Kuwait to host this important session today, and all the management board members of Nadil Iqtasad al-Islami and other participants and attendees, educators, doctors, professors, students who joined this session today. And I would recommend or suggest Nadil Iqtasad al-Islami, inshallah, in future we are going to conduct training program and workshop on Islamic banking principles and practices. And today we finished Islamic banking practice principles. And another part of today's lecture will be conducted soon, inshallah, after we consult with Nadil Iqtasad al-Islami and Dr. Ala, Dr. Abdul Latif, and other management. You will be informed soon and shortly when is going to be the next session on Islamic banking practices. Will be conducted by Dr. Habibur Rahman as well. And there also, I would like to inform all the participants to stay tuned with Nadil Iqtasad al-Islami, as we are going to provide very popular, prominent Islamic banking and finance scholars under Nadir Iqtasad al-Islami in future, inshallah. Thank you very much. نشكر لكم شكرا جزيلا لحضوركم ولمشاركتكم في هذا الملتقى، وأيضا شكرا جزيلا للنادي ودكتور آلا واللجنة التنظيمية لنادي الاقتصاد الإسلامي. وجزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله لكم، ونراكم إن شاء الله في المستقبل. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا. بارك الله فيكم.
بارك الله فيكم. ما شاء الله. There is a شهادة الشكر والتقدير للدكتور حبيب الرحمن ولي، ونشكر لنادي الاقتصاد الإسلامي للقيام على هذا الجهد الكبير.
جزاكم الله خيرا. مع السلامة.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.